beautiful people, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to share my experience on tour, in particular my experience with the Cadets. This is like my favorite shirt ever. Ever. Trust the process. The Cadets. 2017, wow. That was a while ago. And then there's their little logo. Everybody got this like tattooed. I didn't. I didn't even get a henna tattoo of this logo. But anyway, the reason why we're going to discuss my experience on tour is because I brought this bad boy out from the closet. I am going to do a concert for you guys at some point, but I'm recording this video at night, and I don't really know how thick the walls are, and I don't want to get in trouble because there's been plenty of times I've made lots and lots of noise at night and gotten in trouble, and I don't want today to be one of those days. So I will play that for you another day. Maybe do a little music therapy session. But anyway, we're going to talk about my experience in the Cadets. So it's kind of sort of a long one, and I wanted to discuss this because going on tour is a wonderful thing, and very few musicians, especially music therapists, get the opportunity, and it's really important to exploit that opportunity, take advantage of it while you have it. So here we go, diving in. Okay, so back prior to 2017, of course, right, because I went with the Cadets summer of 2017. And what happened was, this guy, we can call him a gentleman caller, he was my gentleman caller, and he talked to me about summer opportunities, and one of them was a research opportunity, and one of them was the Cadets. If you ask me now, which one would I be more interested in, I would totally tell you the research opportunity. But at the time, I was full-fledged musician, preparing for an internship. Going on tour would be a wonderful experience. Plus, at the time, like when you're in undergrad, first of all, you don't have any money, and second of all, you don't have any time. So I didn't have the experience of traveling. Well, my parents, we never really traveled. We never had any money. Then undergrad, still no money and no time. So I decided that going on tour would be a lot more fun. Anyway, we ended up breaking up, but I went through with the motions anyway, and applied. Now, I didn't, I never marched with the Cadets, no duh, because like voice was my thing, flute was my thing, and what is the Cadets? Well, it's a drum and bugle corps, and they're based out of Allentown, Pennsylvania. Two things I hate. Bugles. I hate brass instruments. I will not. I think it's like a rivalry because most woodwind players do not like brass instruments. Like, they don't really come naturally to us. So I hate brass, okay? And then, like, I also hate Allentown because, well, the first time I heard of Allentown was in the 42nd Street because this girl, she was a dancer, and she was from Allentown, Pennsylvania. But I don't know if any of you have ever been to Allentown, Pennsylvania, but it sucks. Like, there's nothing there, okay? Like, there's a main town, but, like, it's not really that great, and Dorney Park's not too far, but again, that park's, like, it's nice, but it's small. I don't know. It's one of those poor cities in Pennsylvania, like Scranton, or, like, Pittsburgh, you know? Like, it's old, and it's poor, and it's run down. Ugh. But the good part about Allentown is that once you pass the Allentown exit on the PA Turnpike, then all the traffic clears. I don't know what it is, but that's like the one good thing. Anyway, so those are two things that I hate. Now, percussion, I do like. I did take percussion, I learned how to play drum set, you know, these are all things you need to know as a musician, but I wasn't a marcher. Like, I hated marching band. I just did marching band because of the guys, okay? Like, so, again, marching, a professional drum and bugle corps, like, those weren't my things. I wasn't a big fan, and I knew of the Cadets because they were in Allentown, and that was the closest drum corps to my university and my high school. But it wasn't me. It wasn't my thing. But the point of the matter is that I applied anyway for the position, and this position, it was a merchandising position, which is so funny because merchandise falls into the business category. And what am I majoring in? Business. So it's funny how at times it's kind of interesting how I applied for a merchandising position, and merchandise is a business like side, you know, and I did do administrative work like in terms of retail. And it's funny because it's like, again, some, you know, I've like, got to take classes on this stuff, so it's funny how times have changed. Anyway, so I applied for the position, but I didn't think I was going to get it because a lot of people were applying for this position because it was a really good one. Like, you know, you got, it was free room, free housing, free food, and you got a stipend. And it was 2 months. The tour is usually 3 months, but this position, it was only a 2-month stint. And what else was a good thing? Oh, well, it was pretty easy. Like, you didn't really need skills to do this job, you know. But the point of the matter is that I didn't think I was going to get picked for it. I honestly did not think, because, like, I didn't march. Like, most people that apply to help the drum corps, they've marched in it, or their kids have marched in it. And me, no association. I maybe went to 2 shows, okay? Like, that was it. I didn't know, like, some of these people who were applying for the position, my gentleman caller is a perfect example. Like, he marched the cadets, okay? Like, he knew who was on staff. He knew the people that were, like, in charge. And I didn't. So I didn't think I was going to get picked. I honestly didn't. And then it turned out that they ended up choosing everybody. Everybody being, like, 3 people, because only 3 people applied. But I didn't know that, okay? Like, anyway, and I wasn't going to accept it either because I had a lot of other things going. The thing was, I applied because I didn't know what life had, like, in front of me. You know, I didn't know if I was going to get an internship. I didn't know what was going to happen the following term. I didn't know if I was going to get a job, you know, all these things. And honestly, like, music therapy internship, music therapy job, part-time music therapy, all of that stuff definitely was higher up on the list than this position. Like, I'm going to be straight up. But it ended up what ended up happening though was that I got a call saying that I had the choice to continue my music therapy position in September full time, or I could start in July. And that's honestly what ended up happening. So I was like, okay, well, that way I can go on tour, or I can go on tour and do my music therapy job. And that was like pretty cool. It was just like a part-time, it was like part-time, at a hospital, I think. But the point of the matter is that, I got to do both. And that's why I decided, because it was really, music therapy was number 1, job, internship, all of that stuff was number 1, and this was like number 2 if nothing worked out. But I ended up getting a call saying that I could choose to start later, and that's why I decided to go on tour, okay? So it was kind of like a fluke in the system. It kind of was just the way life happened. And I told my parents, and they were like, man, okay, whatever, I don't really get it. My gentleman caller at the time, because I was seeing somebody else than the one who told me about this position, was very upset, but didn't break up with me over it. So I was like, okay, I guess everything's, I guess we're good, right? Anyway, so then that's what happened, and then I went on tour, and it was great. No, I'm just kidding. It was not great. So here's the story, okay? So, they fly me out. Like, they do buy me a ticket, but it's a pretty cheap plane ticket. And I left from Philadelphia Airport, and I flew to Dayton, Ohio. And the flight ended up getting delayed, and it was a disaster, and I ended up getting there 14 hours later than when I was scheduled to get there, which was pretty bad considering this is a job, technically. Anyway, so I get there and I get my room, and everything's pretty cool because like they were practicing. So like with marching band or drum corps, I'm sorry, with drum corps they practice on the field. So they were practicing at a college. It was very, very, I don't really remember the name, but it was a very, very nice school. And they ended up practicing, and then we lived in a dorm, and I got my own room because I was considered staff. It was pretty great, and it was a dorm room. And then I think I did have a bathroom in the room too because I was staff. So I technically got like an RA room, like a RA dorm room with the bathroom in it. Anyway, so then what happens, and this is actually like all over the place. Everybody on tour, even like if you do a professional like Maroon 5 tour, like I'm not even joking, like Maroon 5 does the same thing. Like all those reality TV shows where they have to go to set, they all do the same thing. It's kind of scary actually that this drum corps does the same exact stuff as like rock bands and celebrities, but that's like the way, that's why I'm sharing this with you guys. So what ends up happening is for us, for the cadets, so like I stayed in that room, right? And then every morning, well, I didn't have to go to rehearsal, right? But like if you were a performer, you had to go to rehearsal at a certain time. So they had breakfast at a certain time, and they had like this food truck, and it was literally like this monster truck, and they had like a whole, like a full-fledged kitchen in there. Now it was kind of tight quarters, but they had all the resources. They had the stove, they had like walk-in fridge, walk-in freezer, and then what happened was they cooked all the stuff like in, and this is like pretty amazing. And if these people weren't volunteers, I would totally hire them for a wedding because they made so much food, because we had about 200 people. And they made so, like, food, they made just enough for like 200 people. And I don't know how they did it, because like they always made just enough food, and they always made something different. Like they did leftovers sometimes, but really rarely. Anyway, so they set everything up on the table, and there was like awnings and stuff, and then you could like it was a big feast. Technically, you could kind of get what you wanted. I mean, we didn't have, like, lobster, but, like, there were pancakes. Like, in the mornings, they had pancakes, oatmeal, granola bars, coffee. The coffee was horrible. That was, like, the one thing that stunk. But they always had Gatorade, and that was, like, kind of the popular thing, to be drinking Gatorade. I don't really like Gatorade, so I just drank water. But yeah, but they had all the food set up, and it was always like every 3 hours we ate, or they had food, I should say. You didn't really have to eat. And that's kind of like set, like all the celebrities do that, which is like pretty weird. Anyway, so then you go about your day, and like I said, we had breaks every 3 hours, and they were like half-hour to an hour break. Like it wasn't that long. It was really like, you know, get something in your system and then go out on the field. And then, so anyway, so then I was there, and I just did whatever admin stuff needed to be done. And then once we got like full-fledged on tour, like show and all that stuff, that's when the days started to get a little crazy. So like as merchandise, I had to get there like in the mornings, or sometimes before the cast. So like before the performers, we would get there, we would set up, we had our tent with all the merch, you know, and then we had to set up like the iPads and make sure that like, you know, all the cash box was ready to go and all this stuff. And then we stood there, and we stayed there for like the whole show. Now, I don't know if any of you guys were in marching band. Most music therapists were not, unless you played like brass or drums. But what ends up happening at these shows, I never like these marching band competition shows again. But what ends up happening is, as a performer, you get to the show, you set up, you warm up, you get your uniform on, blah blah blah, all the stuff that goes in. Maybe you rehearse a couple of spots that were kind of iffy, and then you get ready, and then you perform, and then you come off the stage and you get undressed, and then you get into like, I, I don't know, marching band. We used to like take our uniforms off, or parts of our uniform off, because they're really expensive uniforms, so they didn't want us like doing mischief in them. And then yeah, and then sometimes you sit for the rest of the show, sometimes you don't, but you stay until the end, because then they announce like, who got what score. um and then you go, then like usually the drum majors or student leaders, they'll go up and like they'll accept the award, and then you pack up and you go home. And the reason why I never liked this system is because as a performer, you hear like all the people, and you hear all the scores, and you hear who ranked ahead of you, but you never got to see who ranked ahead of you. So like, or you know you go to the show, you perform, you change, maybe depending on like where you are in the lineup, maybe you get to see like one or two bands like after you. But usually you don't. And like that's the part that I don't like, because like as a performer, like I don't get to see who was ahead of me, or who scored higher. I didn't get to see why they scored higher. Now the good part is that for at the cadets, they have everybody's on top of it, and the higher ups, they watch everybody. And they videotape, and they like critique, and sometimes they'll even like videotape your performance, and then they'll show you, at the next rehearsal, or you'll listen to the judges tape. So like with the cadets, they kind of take the scoring, because it's like a drum corps, they take the scoring a lot more seriously, and they inform you, I guess, what happened before when you were changing, what we can work on, and they give you kind of all the resources, and they run you like crazy. And that's what ends up happening. Marching band, we didn't have that luxury. Anyway, but as a merchandiser, as an admin staff, I did get to see all the bands, because if I wanted to, because like, we have the booth open, but for like selling, but most people didn't come when bands were performing. People came before the show, people came during intermission, and people came after the show. So like you did get to watch everybody, which was kind of fun, I thought. It was a lot more chill. Like you got to eat, you got to like drink, you got to relax, you got to mingle with other people that were like with the band. It was a lot of fun. Anyway, but then so we'd get there before the band, and we'd go after. So like we'd stay late because people would buy stuff afterwards. So there were times that we traveled in our own vehicle, but for the most part, we did leave with the corps. Like we arrived with the corps and we left with the corps, for the most part, give or take. It really depended on the competition, and it depended on where we were and where we were going. So, sleeping arrangements. We're going to talk about this. So, what happens with sleeping arrangements, and I didn't know this, I saw 21 Pilots on tour, right? And they had the same type of tour schedule. Same, like I said, Maroon 5. Obviously, I like male bands. John Mayer, I like male voices. All these people, they had the same exact type of thing. So, because what ended up happening was we would be at a show in North Carolina, and then we'd have the show the next day in Georgia. So, and that happens, like when you're on tour, that happens all the time, and people don't really realize it. But so you leave the show in North Carolina, you get on the bus, and you technically eat and sleep on the bus, and then you drive, to the next show, and then you wake up, eat, rehearse, so maybe shower, but we'll get to showering in a little bit. So anyway, but you sleep on the bus, okay? And like that's how everybody does it, believe it or not. Like I thought that these stars, I thought they got hotel rooms, but they don't. Like you might get a hotel room, like 21 Pilots, they spent 2 nights in New York, like doing a show, right? So in that case, they might have gotten a hotel room because they did 2 shows back to back in New York City. But for the most part, like, the tour's all over the place. So you're traveling at night. You're sleeping at night in the van or in the bus. So, like I said, we had about 200 people. So we had like 4 tour buses. And when I say tour buses, I mean like the Peter Pan, the Greyhound, like those types of buses. And you slept there. And I guess some people got their own the 2 seats. Some people got both of those seats to themselves. Some people had to share. But since I was staff, I got to be on the tour bus, like the official like tour bus. You know, the ones with the bed in the back and the beds all on the side. I got to sleep in that. Now, of course, it wasn't wonderful because the tour bus that we had, it didn't have a bed in the back. It had like a rounded couch and then like a blank spot for you to put like a mattress, and then it had all of the beds, cabined away like if you're on a boat, and then they had like couches in the front. So technically I slept on like one of the couches. But that's how it is. Even like the little beds, those are technically, they're like coffins, like that's how small they are. And then the couch in the back, it's just like the main guy who was in charge of everything, he slept on the bed, but again, it wasn't necessarily like a bed, it was like an air mattress type of thing. And anyway, there's people all over the place, and you're always around people, and you really need to be an extrovert for this type of thing. Now, they do have other tour buses that were smaller than ours, bigger than ours, like nicer. Well, ours was pretty darn nice, I will say. But they do have like different types, So, so I'm not saying that everybody's going to have the same. Like ours had a lot of couches, right? And I'm not going to say that like maybe Maroon 5 has one with more beds than couches, but the point of the matter is that you're in close quarters. It's like a cruise ship. Everybody's very like tight and together all the time, and like, 1 minute somebody's hair's in your face, and another minute like somebody's like foot is like in your face, and it's very, very tight. Like I said, you need to be an extrovert to be able to handle it. Because, like, there's no room for you to be by yourself. There's, like, the only way, I got my personal time because I am an introvert. So, when we would get somewhere, like, when I had free time, which was quite frequently, like, I would say I had about, like, an hour or 2 of free time, and that's when, like, I would exercise, like, I'd go for a walk. And it was sunny outside because it was summer. So I would go for a walk, and that was my mental time, that was away from everybody. So it is really important to establish that, especially if you're somebody like me and you're not an extrovert. Anyway, so moving on. So that's what happened. That was the sleeping, eating arrangements, eating like when you're traveling. So we didn't really eat meals. We mostly ate like snacks, like Twizzlers and chips, and we drank a lot. That was, I think, the best part about tours. You don't have to like drive anywhere, so you can drink. You could go, well, if you're a performer, I wouldn't suggest this, but I got to show up anything at work because the job itself was stupid, and it wasn't stupid, but it was easy. You didn't really need to be 100% to do a good job, and that was, I think, one of my favorite parts. I'll get to a little anecdote in a little bit. Anyway, so then, there's a bathroom on, there's a bathroom on the bus, and there's a bathroom on the tour bus, but there isn't a shower. So what ended up happening, or at least in ours, there wasn't a shower. So what ended up happening was whenever we got somewhere, usually wherever we were practicing, like it was a field, so there were locker rooms. So we'd end up showering in the locker rooms, or sometimes, like, we rehearsed one time by University of Pennsylvania, or UPenn, and, like, we used their gym to shower, for example. That would be, like, a good, you know, you could shower there because we didn't have showers like on the tour bus. Or sometimes we would get hotel rooms and then again we would shower there. Now when you shower, like again, we had like 200 people, so everybody, all the girls showered together, all the guys showered together. I was on staff, so I didn't have to shower. If I wanted to, I could shower with everybody else, but I didn't have to. And it was very tight. Like you only had so much time. Like I said, I had 1 to 2 hours of free time, and usually I went for a walk, and then some of that time was spent showering. Like, so that's kind of what ended up happening. You didn't really have that much time to like take a nice hot shower and like shave. It was like quick in and out because now the next person has to go or you have to be somewhere. So yeah, so that was hard. And sometimes the showers would be cold. I didn't like that very much. Even though it was hot and it was the summer, cold showers are not for me. So if you go on tour, I suggest bringing wipes and dry shampoo. Again, heads up. Okay, so moving on. Yeah, so that's kind of the life, you know? And then, yeah, that was pretty much it. In your day, we had full days. We had like 12 to 14 hour days. And yeah, that's it. That's it. The living arrangements is a cultural shock and you got to be ready for it. But for me, since it was only 2 months, like it really wasn't that bad. However, there are a lot of people who like went on tour with the cadets and ended up having mental breakdowns because they couldn't take it. And look, like I don't blame you because it is hard and it's weird and like you're around people all the time and it's not like you think going on tour is a luxurious, you know? And that, I mean, I know the cadets, like they're not famous, it's not like a movie, you know, but like everything's the same. Like if you're on tour and you're traveling, you are going to be sleeping on the bus and you're not going to be getting that great of a night's sleep. And then, you know, if you're on a movie, like sometimes they do these movies in like this desolate area. So you're eating off of a food truck, you're probably showering like in a gym, locker room type of setting. So like being famous, going on tour is not all that it's cracked up to be. And I mean, I ended up like I got a stipend, you know, for my work, but I can't even imagine if you're 21 Pilots and you make so much money on tour. Do you know how many hands are going to be in those pockets? Like you make $1 billion on tour, but you know how many people you have to pay? You know, you have to pay like the drivers, like you have to rent the vehicles and then pay for the hotels and then like when you're famous, people know you have money, so they kind of chase after you and they charge you for things that they probably shouldn't be charging you for in the first place. So it's not the life of Riley. It sucks. But I mean, I did it for 2 months and it was great, and at least I said I did it, you know, at least I did it and I have fun and I did it when I was young and I got to see the world and I got to travel to pretty nice places. I didn't necessarily get to see most of those places because we were driving and it was dark, and that's another thing. Just because you drive through a state doesn't mean you've actually seen it, because that happened very frequently. But yeah, but my favorite part about tour was the people, of course. Musicians are just wonderful individuals. We are just the best, the bee's knees. And we're just great people. So that's like number one thing I liked about it. And number two was the, you know what? You know what I'm talking about. That was another fun part. Like I said, you didn't have to be 100% to do your job. And to be perfectly honest, I probably was not 100%, 95% of those 2 months. Because that's how, like, it's kind of how I dealt with it. And then also, like, all the drama of home definitely follows you on tour, which it kind of sucks. Because we have phones and stuff like that. So it was another way I kind of dealt with the whole, like, oh, I'm stressed about my home life type of issues. And yeah, there was one time though we were in Allentown, and like I said, my high school like wasn't too far from Allentown, and I ran into a couple of people that I knew. So somebody made this special. This is my anecdote, and end of our discussion. Somebody made a special dish with watermelon and another liquid substance. It was so good. It was really, really good. Anyway, so it was a hot day. We were having some, and then I ran into a couple people that I knew in high school, and I don't know how old they were. Maybe they might have been in college at that point. But they're like, oh, hi, how are you? Hi, Megan, what's up? Blah blah blah. I heard you were here. I heard you were on tour. How's it going? And and some of these people I wanted to see, and some of these people I didn't want to see. So I was just all loopy. Yeah, I'm doing great. I'm just having some watermelon. Oh, life is good. And I was so done. But that was the best part. That like nobody cared, and that was I think the best. I think second best part was having a job that there was like zero responsibility. I mean, you had to show up, but like if you slept, like there were times that people would sleep through and not show up on time, but like we all knew where you slept, we all knew where you were living, we all knew where you were hiding, like so. And like everybody knew where everybody was, so you couldn't necessarily like call out from the job. But that was like, I think for me, I liked that. I really liked, I liked the people. I liked the, I guess, flexibility, the leisureness. And then I really liked not having that much responsibility. It was my first and last job that required little responsibility. And I am forever grateful that I had that experience to finally have a non-responsible position, travel the world, meet wonderful people, and it was great. It's not the life of luxury, I will tell you that right now. It's not as great. Traveling for fame isn't that great as you think it is. Traveling for business also isn't that great. But that's a conversation for another day. Okay, have a great day, everyone. Thanks for joining me on my tour discussion, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye.